welcome to the Alex Demczak Leadership Podcast. I am so excited to talk with you today. Thank you for tuning in. And you're probably wondering, Alex, wasn't this usually the athlete podcast? Yes, it was. But over the last 2 years, I've had a few different times where people have come up to me and then said, well, Alex, I'm not an athlete. Can I listen to your podcast? And I think that was never my intention. It was for it just to be just athletes. And I think now kind of having the focus of the podcast centering around leadership-centric content, my hope is that anyone feels like they can listen. And so while I still will interview athletes from time to time, I think the concept and the core message of leadership is what I'm super passionate about and excited to bring this year and years ahead. So thank you for tuning in. Today, I just want to share a message that has been kind of relevant in my life the last month or so and that I'm excited to talk about. It's the idea of taking action rather than just waiting for passion. Because I think a lot of times today you hear mantras or slogans such as, follow your dreams or pursue your passion, which is great. And it's true. You should do those things. But I think a lot of people, instead of taking any action at all, what they do is they just wait for this magical passion of theirs to show up on their doorstep. And I think a lot of times that never happens and that never comes for people. And so to just sit there and wait when you could be taking a step towards something that gets you closer to becoming, who you're supposed to be or to do the type of job that you were meant to do, I think is kind of holding you back. And so today I want to share 3 principles, 3 ways that you can take action rather than just continuing to sit on the sidelines. And so a little bit about what has been going on in my life the last few months. I was actually, as many of you know, I was in corporate America for the last 5 years and had built this speaking business on the side. And, I was passionate about my day job and was passionate about my side hustle. But, I really found myself being a lot more passionate about my side hustle, like many millennials out there probably feel. And I had worked for a great employer and such a great opportunity that I had with that company. But at some point I had so many plates spinning, I had to make a decision. And so after meeting with multiple people and getting people's opinions, advice, praying, thinking about what is my next best move, ultimately I made the decision to quit my corporate job right before Christmas. And it was a hard decision to make. I, spent a day or two just saying bye to people at that company, thanking people. And it was such an awesome experience. But what's been great is this last month of going all in on my speaking business has been truly awesome. And I think a lot of what I'm going to talk about in these 3 principles has kind of applies to what I've been going through in the last month or so in making this decision and just going for it. So before I jump in, today's podcast is brought to you by writemybooks.com. Writemybooks.com helps you write, edit, and publish your book, and they do it all in a 16-week time frame. If you're interested in writing your own book or you have a story to share with the world, and you're like, this is my year to tell my story, to finally get it down on paper, to publish it. Maybe you want to do more speaking. Maybe you want to have a passive income through book sales. There might be a lot of different reasons you want to write a book. If that's you, just go to writemybooks.com, or you can send an email to team@writemybooks.com. So to jump right in, the 3 things that I think you should do headed into the new year, we're in quarter 1, we're in end of February, things that you can do right away and things to know about taking action rather than sitting on the sidelines is this. Number 1, you can pivot. Pivot was the word of the year in 2020, right? We all heard that word. It probably got overused to a certain extent, but it's so true. I mean, companies, organizations, like think about the restaurants in New York and California that were told, hey, you can no longer operate, like you have to shut down. And these are restaurant owners that have to provide for their family. So they're sitting there saying, okay, so now my options are either we shut down and I guess I don't provide for my family, or we either leave California and New York and places like that and find a different way to do it. And many of them did leave, and many of them have continued to leave, as we've seen, all the statistics point to that. But for those people that made these decisions to pivot, a lot of them, they've done this new thing, and maybe they've enjoyed it, maybe they haven't, but there's always an opportunity to transition to the next thing. It's not like you're stuck in that new thing. So when you think about taking action on something, I think a lot of people think, like, take my job, for instance, my old job. I had to, at times I would think, well, if I quit my job, then, man, I'm just going to be homeless on the street. I'm not going to have any opportunities. Well, the reality is, once you jump into something, you maybe find certain ways to do it differently, or there's different avenues within that niche. And so just taking the action in the first place allows you then to pivot to other things. You don't have to pigeonhole yourself into one area. You can pivot. And so that's my encouragement. The first thing you can do is you can pivot once you start taking action. The second thing that happens when you start taking action is you gain confidence. You gain confidence. The more you do anything, the more comfortable you become with it. One of my mentors, John Gordon, who he has 24 books under his belt, amazing books. A lot of you have probably read his books. John and I are co-authoring a book called The Sale that comes out in April. I'm going to do a whole podcast just around that book, so there's more to come on that. But I mean, what he's always told me is, especially when I was younger in my speaking career, is, Alex, speaking leads to more speaking. You can't just sit on the sidelines and hope that people are going to hit you up and say, hey, come speak at this event or come over here. But the more speaking you do leads to more speaking. I remember in 2019, before COVID, there was this small Division I conference in the East Coast that brought me in, and they had me speak to every sports team in their conference. There was, I think, 15 teams. And so I ended up giving, I think it was 16 talks in 15 days. And it was literally, I was driving from Rhode Island to New York to New Jersey. It was unbelievable. I'd never been to that part of the country. And it was a grind. Like, if I'm being honest, there was times where I was just trying to figure out if I could make it through, but it ended up being awesome. And that opportunity led to so many future opportunities, and it prepared me in a way that allowed me to have confidence moving forward. I gained this confidence through the reps that I got during that time frame. And the third thing that happens when you take action, the number 3 thing, is that you build momentum. You have the opportunity to build momentum. Think about all those pandemic pivots, those people that stepped out in faith, they took a leap of faith, and then now their businesses are thriving. The momentum has completely surprised them and shocked them. They've been able to make such a big and great impact because they stepped out in faith, and they said, you know what? I want to try this. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know all the answers. I don't maybe have all the experience needed, but I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to go for it and see what happens. And these are the same people now that, for many people, can sit back and say, wow, my business is, which is weird. We're coming out of a pandemic, right? And people are saying my business is doing better than ever. Like, that's hard to think about. That it doesn't make sense. But I think the reason why it makes sense is people have really now defined what they want. As you've seen in the great resignation that's happening, more people, millions of millennials are quitting their jobs right now, and employers are trying to scramble and say, okay, let's give them more money or better benefits, and they're trying to figure out all these answers. The reality is the employees are now in the driver's seat because they can say, you know what, if I don't like this company over here, I can go to this company over there, and they're going to give me these perks and benefits. And so what's happened these past few years is people have seen, the toll that it's taken on people of just being on lockdown, going through all these mandates, all these things, and they're just reconsidering what's important. And I think it's a great thing. I mean, obviously, I want to be sensitive to all the people that have lost loved ones during COVID, and there's obviously very negative things that have happened during this time. But in some ways, I guess when we're just talking about workplace environment, things like that, there was kind of a needed shift, I think, that needed to happen and has happened, to where now people are saying, you know what, I don't really want to go to the office and spend my next 20 years in a cubicle. That's just not what I want to do. I want to do my own thing, or I want to do it on my terms. And so all that to say, when you decide to take action, whether it's a goal that you have, or it's a business you want to start, or a book you want to write, when you decide to take that first step, those 3 things happen. You can pivot, you gain confidence, and you build momentum. And ultimately, you grow in the process. Hall of Fame hockey player Wayne Gretzky said it best. He said, "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take." If you continue to sit on the sidelines, if you continue to put that dream on the shelf, I think we all know it's not going to progress in any way. But if you just take maybe one step today or maybe two steps tomorrow in that new direction and say, you know what, this is where I'm headed. This is where I want to go with this thing. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I want to pursue it. When you start doing that, then all of a sudden at the end of a month, 2 months, a year, you look back and you say, wow, there is some amazing progress that has been made towards me taking action in this way. Once again, this episode was brought to you by writemybooks.com. If you want to have a goal or a dream of writing a book someday, they will help you write, edit, and publish your book. writemybooks.com. Once again, guys, thank you so much. I'm so excited to bring you awesome content this year and beyond. I want to continue to encourage you to increase your performance, enhance your leadership, and maximize your potential. I think if you remind yourself of these 3 items, you can continue to move forward, you can continue to overcome obstacles, and you can go out and make a difference.